just wanted to talk a little bit. I'm not sure if you've listened to my podcast episodes on Living Life Being Human. You can access them in lots of different places, iTunes, Spotify. If you just type in Google Living Life Being Human, then they pop up so you can have a listen to them. But the last one I did was talking about overthinking and procrastination. And I was talking a little bit about our driver behaviour, which is something that I talk quite a lot about with clients. It's a concept in transactional analysis, which is what I'm qualified in. And I just wanted to talk a little bit more about that. So I thought over the next 3 or 4 podcasts that I would look individually at the different driver behaviours. There's 5 altogether, and the last podcast was looking at the Be Perfect driver, talking about how that can kind of, I don't want to say make us, because we always have a choice in what we do. But we overthink things. If things aren't perfect and they're not just so, then we overthink them. We can procrastinate. We can get stuck in a place of inactivity and not doing something that we want to do. And I fall into that category. We all fall into certain categories. There's 5 driver behaviours altogether. There's be perfect, please others, be strong, try hard and hurry up. And they all have the unique little behaviours attached to them. And one of the ones for the be perfect is that everything has to be perfect. So it can keep us stuck. It can keep us inactive, because we can never reach perfection. No matter how much we try, we will always think, I could have done better, I could have done more, I could have done it sooner. When we do take action, it's like, why have I waited so long? What's this all about? We find a wonderful way of beating ourselves up. So I thought it might be helpful to just maybe talk a little bit more in depth about the different drivers that we have. As I said, we have 5 of these driver behaviours, and they're called driver behaviours because it is what it says on the tin. They drive our behaviour. And the one I wanted to talk about today is be strong. I'm quite partial to be strong, because it's one of my go-to driver behaviours. When the poo hits the fan, when there's something going on, then my driver behaviour tends to come to the fore. The be strong driver behaviour is usually associated with men. It's that big boys don't cry, that we don't talk about our issues, we deal with them on our own, we don't need to share our problems. It shows vulnerability and weakness and all those things that I think now we're starting to understand aren't that important, really. So I just wanted to explore that a little bit about it's okay to have feelings. It's okay to not be strong. It's okay to be vulnerable, and how that links in with part of our human behaviour, because we are all human. That's one of the reasons why I call this podcast Living Life Being Human, because it's an exploration of our similarities and our uniqueness. So we all have access to all 5 of these drivers, but we tend to feel more comfortable displaying certain parts of it. So as I said earlier on, be strong can be quite common for men, but I'm a woman, and this is something that I go to quite often. The be strong driver, or when we're in our be strong driver behaviour, it tells us that it's not okay to show emotions, and we should just tough it out and just get on with it. One of the sayings that I used to use a lot with myself, my internal dialogue, is just man up and get on with it. There's worse things happening out there. This is nothing. Come on, just crack on. Let's just get this done. I'm talking about we, because as I said, this is something that I go to quite often in a crisis. But we tend to be quite good in a crisis because we detach from our emotional side. We're quite logical and practical, and what's the solution? What do I need to do? Let's just, follow the sequence A, B, C, D, and we can go to pieces afterwards, which we often do. one of the things I know that I'm quite good at in a crisis is getting through the crisis, and then once the crisis is over, that's when I start to think, oh my God, what if that had have happened? What if this had have happened? What could I have done? And I wouldn't say I go to pieces, but I tend to reflect more on how it impacted on me after the event rather than when I'm going through it. And I suppose, there's no suppose about it. A lot of it is to do with my upbringing, my place in the family, the way that I was raised and everything kind of encouraged me to be independent, to have that strong character, to not show emotions. So as an adult, I'm just living my life the way that I was encouraged to do with strokes and recognition when I was younger, which is how it all works. So that's kind of the background of the driver behaviour and how we come to have it. And I will talk a little bit more about this in the following podcast that you might like to listen to. You might recognise yourself in some of this. When we detach from our feelings and emotions, we can pay the price. Again, being a human being, we have a wonderful way of processing things. If we're not showing emotion, if we're not recognising what's going on emotionally, our way of coping will be through maybe physical symptoms. You might find that if you have a Be Strong driver, that you get neck ache, you get those stress points. You might suffer from migraines, you might have stress headaches. When we're under pressure, when we're under stress and we're not really connecting with it, or we're not very good at noticing what's going on, our body has a wonderful way of letting us know that something isn't quite right, and it will pull the plug every so often. So if this sort of resonates with you, if you're thinking that, oh, actually, that's something that I do, it's not about stopping having a Be Strong driver, because it's part of who we are, but it's just about maybe noticing what's going on. I know for me, I'm really good at avoiding feelings. I will do something. I will get busy. I will start a new project so that I'm not actually having to feel the feels, if that makes sense. I can be very empathic with other people. I just need time to process emotionally what's going on for me. And I'm okay with that, because I kind of know how I respond and how I react to certain things. So people with a Be Stronger, they don't tend to show emotion. They can be quite quiet and withdrawn and quite solitary. And I don't think that's necessarily the case as in being a social outsider. I'm quite a sociable person. I like being around other people. But the way that I see solitary in that situation is that I don't talk about my issues. I'm not very good at talking to people about what's going on. I'm okay about talking about it after the event. Once I've sorted it, once it's been done, then I'm quite happy to talk about that, which was a bit of a drawback when I was, training to be a psychotherapist, because I had to have 4 years of personal therapy, which 4 years of personal therapy every week when you don't want to talk about what you're going through. It was a very long 50 minutes. But I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about what I thought it was acceptable to talk about and not talk about. I did learn an awful lot through doing that about myself. So there was some good sides to it. We tend to be calm in a crisis. We tend to be quite stoic, which means that we evidently endure hardship without showing feeling or complaining. I can complain with the rest of them. So we do dip in and out of this behaviour. It says that we keep our own counsel and we sort our own problems, which I suppose is something that I do find comfortable doing. I discuss things with people. I don't totally exclude people, but whether I talk about the innermost parts of me is something that maybe I could work on. And one of the things that I'm doing a lot more often is one of the earlier podcasts I did a a podcast with my son who was in the military. And I'm in quite a few groups that are around veterans and military people. And I noticed that there are a lot of people in there with displaying be strong driver behaviour. And it's kind of trying to spread the word that it's okay to not be okay sometimes. And, you know, being a person that doesn't really talk about their feelings and emotions in my personal life that often, I can understand why people don't do that. You know, it can be seen as a vulnerability, it can be seen as a weakness. Another personality type, you know, if you've opened up to somebody in the past when you were younger, you told a teacher or a friend or something about something that you were going through and they didn't really take it that seriously. We learned that, you know, what's the point? If I tell somebody and nothing changes and nothing gets done, then I might as well just keep it to myself. So our life experience can become a part of this as well. But as an adult, we have a choice. We can choose to do things differently. And when we're under stress, when we're, you know, feeling hemmed in or our state of mind is quite low, which I would imagine at the moment, you know, we're coming into the second wave of this pandemic, and I'm in the north of England and we're starting to be in more restricted measures and locking down, that it's easy to become quite isolated, and particularly if you have, you know, a be strong driver behaviour that is something that you're comfortable with. We can isolate, we can withdraw and not even notice that it's happening to us. So I just wanted to do this podcast and maybe explore over the next 3 or 4 sessions about how people behave and respond differently to similar situations. We all experience situations individual to ourselves. We can only see the reality through our own eyes. So there's always going to be a difference. But it might just be worth spending a little bit of time, you know, exploring, not being critical or judgmental that I'm right and they're wrong, but just being curious about how people respond and react differently to similar situations. I don't know, have you got a friend that's quite emotional about, you know, where we are as a country, as a nation during this pandemic? Have you got somebody that it doesn't seem to have affected? It's like water off a duck's back and they're just carrying on regardless, doing what they need to do, adhering to the rules, but just getting on with life and seem to be absolutely fine with it? Are there other people that seem to be really, really stressed and really, really busy and doing lots of things and you know, helping others and all those sorts of things? And that's a lot to do with driver behaviour. So I hope over this series of 3 or 4 podcasts, you will start to understand a little bit more about how we all respond and react differently to similar situations. And my hope is that through having that understanding, that we can be more compassionate with other people. We don't need to get them. We don't need to fully understand why they do what they do, but maybe we can be a little bit more compassionate and understand that actually, you know, they're doing the best that they can with what they've got available at the moment, just the same as me. If I'm in my Be Strong driver and I'm just doing lots of stuff and not showing emotion, that doesn't mean that I'm not experiencing something similar to what you are. I'm just seeing it through my eyes, and that's the beautiful thing about us as human beings. We all create our own reality through our thoughts that then create our feelings about situations. So I hope that's given you a little bit food for thought. Join into the next podcast when they come up and listen back to some of the old ones, because I do talk about driver behaviour and transactional analysis quite a lot throughout this podcast. I think I'm coming up to episode 40 now, so I've done quite a few of these. So I hope you enjoy listening to them. Feel free to get in touch with me if you've got a topic that you would like me to discuss on these podcasts. Then I'm happy to do that, and I will be back in the next episode very soon. So yeah, just be curious, not critical. That's another one of the phrases that I'm always saying. Yeah, don't like being critical. I'm good at being critical to myself, but with other people I'm just curious. I like people watching and trying to work out what people are doing. That's one of my pastimes, my hobbies in my spare time. So just be curious about things. So I shall speak to you all very soon. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week.